So my name's John Foreman. I'm Executive Director of Orbit, and I'm going to talk today about the digital client experience. We've talked a lot earlier in the day about the new consumer expectations and about digital marketing and all those things that we need to learn from Bill's talk in particular. Here we're going to go down one level and talk more about how we can do some of those digital marketing things and what they are and how we should use them and so on. I think Bill mentioned about getting a 28-year-old digital marketing whiz on staff. Is anybody here one of those 28-year-old digital marketing whizzes? Yes, okay, super. How much will it cost me for you not to contradict me?
Go ahead.
Okay. Would anybody like to be one of those 28-year-old marketing whizzes? Would anybody like to be 28? Yeah, there we go. I'm in for that one as well. So as I said, I'm Executive Director of Orbit, but when I'm not doing that, I'm actually an e-business consultant. So my firm and I work with companies in various industries to help them improve their online business. So some of that's all of traditional digital marketing, and some of it some other strategies and other things that we can get into. And I also teach digital marketing at the University of Toronto School of Continuing Studies. So the good news and the bad news. Some of the material that we've got here today comes from the course, from the certificate program at U of T. There's no test, but there may be homework. I say that because hopefully you'll find some stuff here that you like and you can take back to the office with you and you can use on the job there. So that's my hope. We'll talk a little bit about Web 2.0 and the digital client experience. A little bit about some of the trends, some of which Bill touched on, and some will go a little bit further on. And then we'll look at some best practices in how we can use digital marketing around our website, content management, social media, etc. And we'll wrap up by looking at a kind of a checklist. And this is something that I hope you can take with you and use as you're making your plans for how you're going to use digital marketing.
You got a handout?
The world has changed a lot in the last 10 years. I mean, 10 years ago, there was no Facebook. Social media was words that people hadn't even thought of putting together before. And yet, our customers today, they live in this world. Like the experience that they enjoy when they're online and the experience that they expect when they're dealing with us is driven by what they experience when they're dealing with these different companies here. I mean, companies like Amazon and Google and Facebook, these are some of the biggest and most successful companies in the world, and yet they're setting the benchmark in terms of what our clients are expecting to see from us. So that's a pretty significant challenge for us. How many people here are Facebook users? Yeah, Pinterest? Yeah. Twitter? Okay, so we know all these things too, right? When we use those services, we know where the bar is set. So the question I wanted to ask, get a bit of a benchmark here, is how important is this stuff to us? Is this nice to have? Is this essential? What do you think? Essential? We need to do this just as well as Facebook or Google or any of those people. We need to be able to offer a really top quality digital client experience. How close are we to that today? We're there, somewhere in the middle? We got a long way to go? Okay. Do you know what? Like I deal with a lot of companies and I study a lot of companies. Most people have a long way to go. Even Amazon and Facebook have a long way to go. But that doesn't reduce the challenge that we face in trying to get there. So Bill talked earlier about Gen Y and about the Millennials. I wanted to add a couple of points to that. Of course, we know that the Millennials are people who were born in the 80s and 90s and who have always had the internet. They don't know any other way. And they live online, and they buy online, and they chat online, and all those things. And the buying experience, the way that they like to buy, is very different from the way that probably most of us grew up buying, right? They would do their search on Google, they would check social media comments, they would chat with their friends on social media, they would research and select a product, they would bargain hunt across all different types of websites and online stores, and then finally they probably would buy online. Now that's okay, I mean that's the way the world is, right? We have to live with that. But it puts us at a real disadvantage because we don't have an awful lot of influence over most of what they're exposed to. You know, if we've got somebody on the phone or in person and we're talking to them, we can do a good job talking about our company and our products and the value added that we bring. But in that type of buying cycle, that's an extra challenge for us. It's one that we can't really ignore. We have to find a way to get our value into that process. One other thing, so we hear a lot about the Millennials and the Gen Y, but did you know that 80% of people who are using social media are over the age of 25? So social media is not purely a young person's tool. As Bill mentioned as well, you know, parents and grandparents are using social media as well. And so in effect, you know, as much as we're concerned about these Gen Ys and Millennials and being able to market to them, all the same things are going to apply regardless of who we're marketing to now, because everybody is now using that online process. And the pace at which this has been happening is just incredible. The change that you know, stores like, say, Best Buy are seeing just in the last 2 or 3 years between what they're able to do in their physical store and what has to happen online. It's really been a tidal wave of movement towards this online experience. So one of the things beneath that is that the internet has really changed how the whole buying cycle is conducted. Right? A normal buying cycle, we have a consumer who has some awareness of a need. I need to buy some insurance. And they're going to do some research. What do I need? Who offers this? And then they're going to get serious about it. They're going to say, well, I kind of like that supplier there or that supplier there. What are their particular details and prices like? Then they make a decision, then they buy. And previously, we could get into that cycle fairly early, right? Because one of the main sources that they would have for gathering information would be to contact us. And if we've done a reasonable job of getting our name out there in our community, then there's a reasonable chance that they're going to contact us. And once we've got that contact, we can tell our story, and that's what we're good at. But if they're doing the first half of that buying cycle, even forget about the second half of it and whether they actually buy online or not, if they're doing the search online and their research online, we've lost that ability to tell our story to them. And we're at the mercy of others who may have invested more in getting their story into an online mode. So what we need to do is we need to look at the tools that are available now, and we need to get those out there so that they play the role of gathering awareness, of attracting people to our website, to our phone lines, and getting them into the buying cycle where we can, you know, have our influence on them. So a couple of other trends that are influencing our world right now. One is the way that the online and offline buying process has actually changed even in the last couple of years. When the first online stores came out, and probably Amazon was one of the very first, an online purchase was a substitute for an offline purchase. So in other words, you would either go to Amazon and buy the book online, or you would go to Chapters and buy the book in the store. But you probably wouldn't have done both things. Then that started to merge a little bit. And you had what they call showrooming, where people would go into Chapters, thumb through the book, say, I really like that book. I'm going to see what Amazon charges for that book. And they would buy it on Amazon. Now what's happened is that people are adjusting their buying behavior so that they weave back and forth between the online and offline world multiple times in the process of making a purchase. So what this means, this is what we would call a multi-channel world. And whether they're exposed to us on social media or on our website or on Facebook or in person or through print media or on a radio ad, it all blends into the same experience. So what we need to have an understanding of is where are our customers out there in that universe, where are they picking up their information? And we need to be there. So unfortunately, it's not as simple as saying, we just need a Facebook page. If we have a Facebook page, we'll be right up there. Or we need to have a Twitter account or something. We have to understand where our clients are going to gather their information from and where our competitors are putting their information, and make sure that we have a strategy that's going to get our information in the right place at the right time in the buying cycle and tell our story in a good way. So that's a pretty major challenge for us. Unfortunately, I'd love to say it was easy, but unfortunately it's a bit of a challenge. And of course, we all know the huge adoption of mobile. And as Bill said again this morning, there are now more mobile phone lines on the planet than there are people. And in markets like North America, over 50% of people now have a smartphone. And many of them also have a tablet as well, right? So it's become a very complicated environment. We've got people at their desktop, at their tablet, at their smartphone, on the telephone, in person, all these channels. Now what we learn about these is that they use these different tools in different ways. They're not interchangeable. What you do on your smartphone is not the same thing as what you do on your tablet. What do you do with your smartphone? Text. Yeah, absolutely. So text and talk. Anything else? Yeah.
Play Candy Crush.
Play games? Okay.
My banking.
You do your banking, sure. Has anybody bought insurance on their smartphone? No. How about tablet? What do we use our tablets for? Games, a lot of games, judging by many people I know, some of whom live in my house. Research shows that people tend to do more research on on tablets, and the desktop is just falling off a cliff. Desktop is largely used in a work environment, but in a home environment, the tablet is really rapidly displacing the desktop. And the things that we used to do on the desktop, we're now doing on the tablet. Smartphone use is very location sensitive. So if I'm at home and I want to do research, I'm more likely to do it on a tablet than a smartphone. If I'm out and about, I will use my smartphone for whatever I need to be done, but I'm not likely doing any in-depth research. I might be doing searches, whether it's for restaurants or maps or whatever, but I'm probably not doing comparison shopping of insurance rates on my smartphone while I'm out and about. So we need to be aware of what people are doing and what they're using these different devices for, so that we design our presence on those devices to fit with what they're doing. And then we've got social media, which has just grown way beyond anybody's expectations. And Facebook in particular has been a huge success story. There's two things about Facebook. One is just the sheer number of people that are on Facebook. There's over 1 billion active monthly users. And in Canada, as it says here, I apologize, the numbers aren't very clear, but it says that 73% of adults have a Facebook account. That's a huge percentage. The other thing about Facebook is that of all the digital media forms, Facebook is the one that people spend the most time on. People spend orders of magnitude more time on Facebook than they do on Twitter. They might use both Facebook and Twitter every day, but they spend a few minutes on Twitter and they spend hours potentially on Facebook. So it's clearly a very different type of tool, and again, all social media tools are not created equal. So how are insurance consumers using social media? Well, they fit into the mix and they're using them for all the things that they once would have done offline or done on their desktop. And so that's the challenge for us. So that actually leads us to a completely different way of marketing. Does anybody know who Seth Godin is? Ever heard of him? He's one of those gurus. He was the one that came up with the concept called permission marketing. And he was watching all of this social media and all of this online activity, and he was saying, we're really seeing a different way of marketing now. In the old world, we put out print ads or radio ads or television ads, and we would push our message out to try and reach our potential market. And because we were pushing it, it likely was reaching them at a time when they were actually doing something else. They weren't actively looking for insurance when our ad happened to show up in a particular magazine or particular radio spot. They may have paid attention to it, but the vast majority of people that were exposed to the message were not actually looking for insurance at that particular point in time. So that's called push marketing or interruption marketing. What Seth Godin said is what we really want to do is we want to attract people to us by having great content, great message, really worthwhile things to share with them that are of interest to them, that will draw them to us at a time when they are interested in our particular service or our particular company. So what this has led to is this whole idea of content marketing. Has everybody heard of content marketing? No? Okay. It's really anything that we do on social media, and a lot of what we do on our website really falls under the banner of content marketing. So let's talk about that. So the idea behind content marketing is to deliver stuff, information to our potential customers that is of real value to them. So it's not us saying how great we are, it's us helping them get value-added information that's going to help them do what they want to do. Content can be in many forms. It can be in the text on your web page. It can be a message in a tweet. It can be the content on your Facebook page. It can be a customer testimonial. It can be an article, either on your website or in a blog forum or something else. Something that you've created that has intellectual property and it has some value to the customer. And what this does is it helps demonstrate to the customer that we know our stuff and that we understand them and that we have something to offer that might be of interest to them. Right? And so this is called pull marketing as opposed to push marketing, because we're trying to attract people to us rather than push our message out to them. And this has been a very, very rapidly growing area, and more businesses are investing a lot in doing this. And I think the last numbers I saw said that a typical business's marketing budget, they spend about 25 to 30% of their total marketing budget on content marketing. And that's kind of growing like that. Okay, so let's talk about some best practices that'll help us make use of these trends and create that digital client experience and win more business for us. So all of this online stuff that we do, there's many channels, many tools, and some of them, we hear the buzzwords every day in terms of social media and so on. But ultimately, what we really want is we want to have a contact with the customer. And most of the time, that contact requires that they come to our website and initiate a request for us to contact them, right? Either by requesting a phone call or filling out a form or just calling in directly. But most of the time, for that to happen, they actually have to come to our website. So the website is the focal point for most of the activities that we'll do in the digital world. So when we're doing social marketing, when we're sending out tweets, ideally what we want to happen is we want them to come to our website, learn more about our company, request a contact and let us engage with them. Same whether we're talking about online advertising, mobile marketing. Our goal is to get them to our website, primarily to our website, to initiate contact with us. Even email. Email marketing might be seen as a little bit, not of the current generation, but email marketing is still one of the most used and most successful marketing techniques out there. And one of the most valuable pieces of information that you can have about a prospect, even more than their phone number, is their email address. Phone number, you can call them once, and if it doesn't go well, that's that. Email, you can nurture the relationship, right? You can send them things that will be of interest, send them notices, invite them to events, tell them about new things on your website, new service offerings. If you've got that email address, then you have the basis for an ongoing relationship. So really, really important. So this chart here is one that I hope you'll take home with you and think about how those different things all fit into your program of trying to initiate contact with new prospects. The second way that I'd like you to think about it is in terms of a life cycle, right? So everybody goes through that life cycle that we saw earlier about awareness and doing your research and getting serious about a solution and making a purchase decision and hopefully going on to becoming a happy customer and renewing. From our digital marketing perspective, this kind of equates to this. And it's very similar to what we saw earlier as well. We've got an attract phase. We've got to get them into our universe. We've got an engage phase where we want to give them information that's useful to them, have them look at our website, at our services, and so on. We have a convert phase. We want them to buy. And then we have the retain phase where we want to maintain and grow the relationship, right? So all those tools that we saw on this slide should have a home on this slide as well. Because again, some of these tools are really good for some things, not so good for other things. In my consulting work, something that I find a lot is that many companies focus on the attract side of things. They say, we've got 1,000 visitors a month coming to our website. Boy, if we could just have 5,000 visitors a month coming to our website, that would just be fantastic. Well, there's two things about that. Sometimes there aren't 5,000 visitors out there available to come to your website. I mean, the market's not infinitely large. At some point, you're getting pretty much as many as you're going to get. The other thing is, if you're bringing them in, but you're not very good at engaging or converting, then you're wasting all that money that you're spending on the programs to get them in. And many times when we work with a client, we say, okay, looks like you're getting some good, healthy traffic to your website. Let's see what happens when they get to your website. And what we find is that many of them leave without leaving an email ID or without doing anything that indicates a longer-term relationship. So we say, well, that looks like where you should put your energy. You need to fix that problem. And then when you've got that fixed, maybe we can look at how you need more traffic. But we need to think about it. How are we going to move people through from first learning about us to learning about our products and our services to choosing us over the other options that they might have looked at, and then maintaining that healthy relationship over time. So again, I hope this chart is one that you'll take with you that will help you think about how to use these different tools. So one of the conclusions that I would draw from that is that many companies invest energy in different marketing channels without having thought about what they're really trying to achieve. I mean, at the end of the day, what is it that we want to come out of all this? We want more customers and we want happy customers, right? But a lot of people would invest the energy and not have a clear view of how that's going to lead to more customers. If they think about it a little bit, like one of the problems with this chart is that there's way more there than any of us can really do. How many? Yep.
I had a quick, I should have asked you before, but what is a paid search
Okay.
I think it is.
Well, it's Google AdWords is the number one provider there, but I've actually got a slide coming up in just one or two. I'll explain that one. In fact, I'll explain multiple of these. I just didn't want to get into them all here. So, how many people would say that they currently have a digital marketing program that looks something like this? Yeah, that's super. How's it working?
Great.
Is it
20 sales a month off our website.
fantastic?
2,500 people coming into the website. We usually get about 200 people quoting.
Was it easy to do, or was there a lot of work to make that happen?
It took us over a year of concentrated effort.
Yeah, yeah. And I imagine that you experimented and learned a lot along the way
Made all kinds of mistakes.
in order to figure out what's going to work best for you. Because unfortunately, there's no one size fits all, right? And I can't just give you a list that says, do this and you'll be great. But I can give you a list that says, these are the things that the best companies are doing that are producing good results for them. You just need to figure out how to make it work for you. So you've got choices to make because we can't do everything. Do you have a team or a person, or how do you run that program?
We have two levels of team. We have a team of 5 people just focused on social media and website.
Wow.
We meet once a month
Yeah.
to discuss what we're doing and what we're doing next. We have 2 people that actually concentrate on being, the masters of online.
Okay, super. And how does that integrate with your offline work?
In terms of, I'm not sure what you mean, but in terms of just moving customers from the website into sales,
Mm-hmm.
we use our CRM to create lead generation.
Yeah.
So every time someone does a quote, it goes into lead generation, and then one of the salespeople picks it up within 30 minutes as a call and gets back.
Okay, super. Yeah.
Just wanted to ask your question. Did you have a third-party people to help you, or did you just come up with your own strategy and did it by yourself from scratch?
We have a little bit of help right at the first, but mostly it's just ourselves.
And it's all being done in-house, or have you got some outside firms involved?
We have very, very little help from outside. It's almost all in-house.
Okay, I'm going to come back to you when we talk about some of the specific strategies and see how you were able to do that internally. Okay, so before starting, I think we need to think about what it is we're trying to achieve, how much resources do we think we have available to put towards this, and then we have to choose where we're going to invest our energies. And it's got to hang together, right? We can't invest all our eggs in one basket on the attract side, which is actually what a lot of people do. We've got to make sure we've got a good website for people to come to, some good content for them to engage with, and that we've got the call to actions and the value proposition that's going to turn them into customers. So first, let's talk about the website. So, has anybody heard of the term bounce rate? Bounce rate, it's when somebody comes to your website and then immediately leaves it without looking at any other page on your website other than the one they landed on, they are said to have bounced off your website. One of the clients that we were working with hired a firm to help drive traffic to their website. And the firm drove tons of traffic to the website, but their bounce rate was 92%. 92% of everyone who came to their website left without looking at anything other than the page they landed on. In other words, the traffic that they were bringing in really wasn't very good quality traffic. They were getting a lot of people that really weren't looking for what they were selling. So we have to have a website that people are going to want to visit once they get there. And there's a few rules for that. Actually, so one of the things that they say, kind of a rule of thumb, is that when somebody lands on your website, you have 5 seconds to get their attention. If you haven't engaged them, if they aren't saying, wow, I really like this website, within 5 seconds, then the chances are they're going to bounce. So we have to have a website that on whatever page they're going to land on, says to them, this website is for me. This website has stuff that is important to me. Now that doesn't mean that we say, we are the best company in our category in this region. Most of the time that probably isn't what they're looking for. But we need to put messages and content on the web page that are going to say, I need to know more about that. Another key point is about navigation. We're all very logical people, and we're taught, the Dewey Decimal System and all of that. We're taught a very logical ordering of things, and that can lead to us setting up websites that have lots of menu items and they all break down, and it can be a big hierarchy to get to all of the different pieces of information on our website. But that doesn't work here. Again, the rule of thumb is your visitor, your customer, has to be able to reach what they want within 3 clicks. Because for every extra click it takes beyond 3 clicks, more and more people are going to drop off without seeing it through. Right? So when we think about our website, we need to think about who is it we're designing it for. It's not for us, it's for them. And what do they want to do? And what information is going to be of most interest to them? And then we've got to put it where they can find it easily and where they can navigate based on what process they're trying to do, their research process or their buying process, whatever it might be. Another key thing on the websites is we have to have really engaging content. So what might good content on an insurance website be? What?
Stuff that your clients are going to want to see, helpful tips on.
Helpful tips, for sure.
Yeah.
You see an awful lot of articles that say 5 things you need to know about. That sort of thing gets their attention. 5 things you need to know about recreational vehicles, about cottage properties, about, whatever it may be. Other thoughts?
Cost savings, I'd say. Everyone wants to hear about cost savings.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have to have something there that's going to be of interest to them, and it's going to cause them to engage further. And unfortunately, most of the time, it isn't, the About Us page is probably not the page that's going to really engage them. If they're getting serious about buying from us, then they're going to go to the About Us page. They're going to say, oh yeah, that sounds like a firm I can do business with. But for the first exposure, that's probably not what they're going to want to see. And this is why, we say content is king, and this is why there's so much about blogs. Does anybody here have a blog on their site? Anybody thinking about putting a blog on their site? Yeah. So you have a blog on your site now. What sort of things do you blog about?
Our site is being launched in June, so it has.
What sort of things will you blog about?
Like current market trends and like seasonal things, or in response to we're from Hamilton, so 2 years ago there was like the 50-year flood, and then all the roads washed out.
Yeah,
Those sorts
yeah.
of things, current. I don't want to say current events, but
Do you know what?
people are thinking about in relation to their trends.
Do you know one of the great things about blogging? So when you build a web page, your website, you're building it for all of the visitors that are coming to your site, and so it's got to be a little bit general. When you're blogging, you can be very specific. You can write an article specifically for people about motorcycles, specifically about flood protection, specifically about seasonal issues, specifically about I don't know, whatever niche you may be targeting. So blogs are terrific that way. So you were launching a blog, or you're planning to?
Like to, yeah.
Yeah, and what would you like? What goal would you like to see come out of doing the blog?
Well, I think based on what research and talking to different people, it's good for search engine optimization.
Yeah,
So
yeah, absolutely.
It's going to drive traffic to your website. So
Yeah,
at
and
the same time, I use it as an opportunity to showcase that you're the type of brokers people want to deal with, maybe insurance tips, that kind of stuff.
like if we look at why people choose brokers over direct insurers, it's relationship, and it's the extra support and assistance and information and guidance that they're going to get. So blogs are a great way to show that you can bring that to the relationship. And then there's call to actions. There's a lot of websites that are really, really engaging, but it's not clear how to actually buy something, how to get a quote. There was one client we were working with, and they had a lot of great material on their site, but we were finding that even though lots of people were coming to the site, lots of people were learning about their products, the actual link that would take them to be able to buy something was so subtle, so hidden away that most people never even found it, and they'd leave without ever even making it to that step. So we've got to make sure that we make it clear how they should go forward, and this should be sensitive to what they're trying to do as well. Would you like more information? Would you like us to call you? Would you like to see speak to someone about this particular issue? Would you like to see a report on this particular issue? And of course, we want the contact. We also want the email information, because once we've got that, we can start to develop a more long-term and richer relationship with them. And then there's the shopping cart. Now, if most of your sales transactions take place over the phone, then the shopping cart is less of an issue. But if you're actually doing transactions online, the shopping cart is really, really critical. A lot of people get terrified when they get into a shopping cart. Who's been to Amazon? Yeah. Amazon's famous for its one-step checkout. They've worked really, really hard to make it easy to buy something on Amazon, and in fact, they patented the process. They're the only ones who've been able to do that. They've patented that process. But a lot of companies have shopping carts that start asking for tons of information, and it gets cumbersome, and it gets scary, and it gets confusing, and a lot of people leave. So the best practice is we want to keep that shopping cart as simple and as unintimidating and as easy to use as possible, and make it easy to get help if they run into any trouble there. And then, so let's step back a bit and say, well, how do we get people to our website? We've got a good website now that's got a lot of great stuff on it. It's going to be great for them to use. How do we get them there? Somebody mentioned search engine optimization. Can anybody explain what search engine optimization is? That's good. You don't need to waste your life being able to explain it. Yeah?
It's keywords that when people type in whatever they type in,
Yeah.
those words are embedded in have to be embedded in your site to get picked up by Google or the spiders that go
Yep.
in.
Exactly. So the way this works, and Google's done a fabulous job of creating this whole environment that allows this thing to work. Google sends out crawlers, they call them, spiders, that go and they check out every website and every page of every website that they can get to, and they analyze them, and they say, is this a good web page? Is this a credible web page? And they give it a ranking. And each web page has keywords. So, you know, if auto insurance was one of your keywords, Google would look at your web page and say, is this web page really about auto insurance? And how does it compare to other web pages that we have seen that have the keyword auto insurance? And it would give it a ranking. And then when somebody does a search and they put auto insurance in the search field, Google goes through its indexes and says, okay, here are all the pages that scored the highest on auto insurance for this particular geography, you know, and other factors that they look at. And then it brings them back and it displays them, right? So we've all done searches on Google, and we know that you can get tens of thousands or even millions of responses back. How many people ever look beyond the first page? Almost nobody. Like 95% of all the clicks come on the first page. So if you're not on the first page, you know, you're really not there as far as the customer is concerned. So how do you get on the first page? Well, you have to tune your website for the very specific keywords. How many companies do you think use the keywords auto insurance? Wow, wow. I mean, it's hard to think of a keyword that is more used than that. So if we just optimize on auto insurance, how do you think we're going to compare to the 10,000 other companies that have also focused on auto insurance? What do you think?
Not well.
Not well. So how do we deal with that?
You can use like longer run-ons, adding more geographical things. Yeah.
We get more specific, right?
Yeah, we talked about earlier that insurance is the highest bid word on Google, so you can't, like, unless you have $50 a click to spend on it, you're not.
Even there, it wouldn't work. Yeah, so what we need to do is we need to be very specific and focused about what we're trying to promote on our page. Every page on our website has, in effect, a small set of keywords associated with it. And they shouldn't all be general. They shouldn't all be auto insurance. That's not going to do us any good. It would have to be as specific as we can make it, right, to what we're trying to promote and the value we're trying to promote. And then Google will rank us higher. The other thing about the Google search is that it takes a lot of time. Google assesses your page and it ranks it here. And then it comes back a few weeks or a few months later and it assesses it again and said, well, that page has improved a little bit. There's been some new information added and lots of people have visited that page. So that must be a pretty good page. Let's move it up to here. Yeah?
So what other keywords, so let's say, you're trying to drive traffic to have people quote on your site, and everyone is going to use auto insurance.
Yeah.
So what other keywords are you trying to embed?
So tell me about some specific words you would use to describe your customers, whether it's about what's triggering the renewal. So first, we would differentiate quote versus claim. We would differentiate, is it a sports car? Is it, what is specific about it that can help us narrow it down? And is it comprehensive? Is it, narrow it down as much as we can and add whether it's local things, local geography for our particular town, something that's going to help Google tell whether this is relevant to the person that's searching.
Is it phrases or words?
Okay, good point. We call them keywords, but in fact they're phrases. And the most effective searches are typically searches that involve 4 or 5 words, right? So people won't search on, maybe they'll search on auto insurance, but they'll get a million results. But if they search on auto insurance, quote, Port Hope, right? Now we're starting to give Google something to work with to help put our results in on the results page.
So let's say auto insurance Port Hope, those 4 words have to be on your webpage.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not in any particular order, though.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Now, Google knows where people are searching from. Right? It knows where the IP address is, so it knows if somebody in Port Hope is searching for insurance. So even if somebody in Port Hope searches on auto insurance quote, Google is going to give preference to pages that have Port Hope in their keywords because it knows that's going to be more relevant than giving them something in Toronto or Arizona. So there are rules, but one of the things that we would conclude is that this is hard for someone to do who's not really expert at this. And that's why there are a lot of firms out there that have become really, really good at doing this. And unfortunately, that's true of a number of the digital marketing tools that we'll want to use. It's a long learning curve, and is that really how you want to spend your time becoming an expert in search engine optimization? You'd be better off focusing on social media networking. So anyway, there's a number of ways that we can draw people to our site. Search engine optimization is a really important one. And we'll talk about a couple of others in a moment there. One other thing, we talked about mobile sites, or the use of mobile, and we know that there's a better than 50% chance that whoever comes to our website is coming from a mobile device, whether it's a smartphone or a tablet. Is a smartphone the same as a tablet? What's different?
Screen size.
Yeah, 2 things, the screen size and what you're doing when you're actually using it. And as this picture shows, if you just take your ordinary web page and try and squeeze it onto a screen, like on the left side there, that's not going to work very well. It's not very user-friendly and it's kind of hard to use. So there's a couple of things we can do. Many website systems, content management systems, have automatic functionality built in to render your web page on a mobile device. And so, we can get the image on the right there. There are a couple of other ways to do it as well, though. One is to have completely different web pages for mobile devices. And the reason why we would want to do this is, one, we can design it so that it's the most effective that it can possibly be, and not leave it to chance. And 2, we can design it for the specific thing that we think the person would be doing when they're using it. So our general web page has general functionality on it. It has lots of navigation. It can get us to anywhere on the website. Our mobile page might be much more limited. It might be saying, we're assuming that when you're using this page, this is what we think you're doing. And we're going to design this page to give you a good experience for doing that. The other thing that we can do is we can have a mobile app, right? So instead of just using our web page as is, there can be a downloadable app. There's like IBO has that app that handles claims and some inquiry functionality. A bit expensive to develop one for ourselves, but there are multiple ones out there. So we've got some options to make. But at a minimum, we need to make sure that our website is going to show up well on the mobile devices our customers are using. We talked about search engine optimization, and the thing about search engine optimization is that at the end of the day, it really is the very best source of high quality traffic for your website. All of the other things that you would do would have much higher drop-off rates than search engine optimization if you've got your website and all these parameters set properly. So it is very important to us. It takes some time to do, and it takes some expertise that we probably don't have, but it is something that we're going to have to invest in. Something else, though, is the use of online advertising, like Google AdWords. How many people are using Google AdWords or other online advertising today? So how's it working for you?
We just started a campaign this month. So
Oh, okay, so it's a little early to say yet.
yeah, but we've actually already been seeing, like, offer ads alone. We're doing a low buy right now, but we've seen, like, I think around 400 or 500 clicks.
Wow.
This started
Okay.
this month. So,
Fantastic.
yeah.
Did you put your phone number in the ads or just to the website?
Just to the website and it's specific. So we wrote an ad for auto insurance and it'll take
Yeah.
them specifically to our landing page.